Okay. So Dublin Cycling Campaign is a charity, and I suppose what we're trying to achieve is a vibrant, livable Dublin where everyone can enjoy walking and cycling. When we ask people who cycle in Dublin right now, what is the one word they associate with cycling? These are the responses we see. So freedom, joy, fitness, fun, happy. There's also a few words in there like risky, danger, death trap. So to some extent, cycling is not always fantastic and enjoyable in Dublin, but it could be if we want to make it that way. There are three things people need to cycle. They need something to cycle, they need knowledge on how to cycle, and they need a route that is suitable for their needs. I think the thing that's really important here is like a suitable bike for someone might not be suitable for someone else. So someone with a balance issue might need a tricycle. Someone who's trying to carry lots of kids might need a slightly larger bike. People need the appropriate knowledge to cycle, so this might be knowing how to ride a bike, but also kind of some skills about how to navigate traffic. I suppose what we're really here tonight to talk about is the last big one, which is a suitable route for people to cycle, and that's suitable for their needs. The way people travel is a really deeply personal choice. A huge number of criteria go into why people travel the way they do. Everything from convenience to how much they need to carry to is there bike parking at the other end? Is there car parking? What's the price? There's a huge number of criteria. And so to some extent, we need to think, how do we kind of make these choices as easy as possible for people if we want to encourage them to walk and cycle? So one of the things we hear quite a lot is that cycling is a niche activity for a small group of people. And I kind of really just want to dispel that myth now in a moment. There's a fantastic series of research papers from Dr. Jennifer Dill, who's a professor of urban studies and planning. And it's about this idea which is called the 4 types of cyclists. So this is a model. People don't neatly fit into these 4 buckets, but it's a really useful way of thinking about this problem. About 4 to 7% of people fit into this strong and fearless category. They're the people who will cycle kind of no matter the conditions. You've got this enthused and confident group next, which is another small chunk. These are people who want to cycle. They have a bit of confidence. They might cycle in mixed traffic, but they really don't want to be. And then you've got this really big bucket, this interested and concerned group, this like 50 to 60%. They were interested in cycling, but they're far too concerned. They're lacking the confidence. They're lacking the safe route. So I'm going to use some stereotypical images to just try and drive home this point. Strong and fearless might look like this group, who are happy to cycle on kind of rural roads with high-speed traffic. They might be happy to cycle on multi-lane roads. They're very strong, very fearless. You get the enthused and confident, who are probably most of the cycle commuters in Dublin right now. They have a lot of confidence, a lot of experience on the roads, but they would like to see upgraded infrastructure. The infrastructure matters most, though, for this group, the interested but concerned. This is the Grand Canal cycle route in Dublin City Centre. A proper curb-protected cycle route with cyclists having their own traffic lights. There's a huge diversity of people cycling here. The other group that kind of fits into this like interested but concerned are these kids cycling to school here, who are from the D12 cycle bus, which is an organized group cycle every Friday to Green Hills National School. If it wasn't for the parents to some extent coming together and forming this pontoon of kids who cycle to school, they wouldn't be able to do it because of the lack of infrastructure. So to some extent, to kind of dispel the myth that cycling is a niche and that only a small group of people want to do it, we have always said, look at the Netherlands, look at the huge numbers of people from all walks of life who cycle as part of their normal everyday life. We see lots of kids and family cycling. We see lots of older people cycling in the Netherlands. But to some extent, the Netherlands, they're so very far ahead, and it feels a bit, it's a foreign idea. So the full quote for seeing is believing is, seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth. We can see the Netherlands, and all we can do is believe that Dublin could be like this. But it's only when you start to experience it in Dublin that you start to realize maybe this could be very true. And I suppose particularly over the last year, we've seen a number of projects across Dublin that have seen huge increases in the number and the diversity of people cycling. So the top two photos are the coastal mobility route in Dún Laoghaire, seeing lots of people who you wouldn't normally see cycling out cycling. The photo on the bottom left is from Grange Gorman Road in Dublin city centre. This road has the TU Dublin campus on it, and it also has 2 national schools and a large number of houses. It used to be a rat run for people trying to avoid traffic on the main roads on either side of it. Dublin City Council installed some bollards, and there's been a huge increase in the number of people cycling to school. So Finola has gone and stolen one of my photos, but that's Coastal Mobility Route and Griffith Avenue in Dublin city centre. Both of those projects were built in the last year. They both started design this year as well. It was very quick to get these implemented. We're seeing much more older people cycling. So the photo on the left is from Dún Laoghaire, and the 2 wonderful women on the right are from Galway. These 2 women have been friends for decades, and both took a notion to some extent that they wanted to go buy a tricycle. And they both arrived on the same week, and they went to show each other their tricycles at the same time. The woman on the left said, "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's put years on my life." And she cycles with her grandson to school most weeks. We're seeing much more families cycling in Dublin. Lots more people are moving around by bike, and we really are trying to dispel this myth that cycling is for a niche group of people. These photos are from a Gael school in Monkstown, just off the new cycle route in Dún Laoghaire. There has been an absolute explosion in the number of kids cycling to school. As Ali said, kids really want to be cycling to school. They really do. When we look at those words at the very start, the ones that kids also talk about are freedom, fun. They enjoy cycling to school. There's been a massive explosion since the cycle route has gone in. As I understand, the number one thing a lot of those kids in that school are looking for this Christmas is a new bike. I wish their parents luck, because bikes absolutely are selling out of the shops right now because of COVID. So this myth isn't true. What is true is cycling can be an option for everyone if we design it with everyone in mind. A lot of the cycle infrastructure that we've kind of built up to this stage has been painted lines on the side of the road. It has been targeted at people who are strong and fearless or confident and enthused. It hasn't been targeted at everyone. What Mick and his team are talking about doing here is a program of work to make cycling a real option for everyone. And I'm not saying we need to do every trip by bike, but we at least need to make a lot more trips possible by bike, because a lot of trips aren't possible by bike for a lot of people. Okay, the second kind of big idea I want to talk about tonight is kind of changing our shared public space. So public space is kind of the streets, the parks, everything that is kind of shared by all of us. We all have a stake in ownership in how our streets look, how our roads are designed, and how our public parks work. To change public space, I think you need these 3 things. You need designers, funding, and political will. The designers are the staff in Dublin City, or in South Dublin County Council. They are committed to this. They have a plan. Finola is saying the National Transport Authority has the money from the new programme for government. There is the funding. If you want to see change, you need the political will. It's key stakeholders bought in on the need for change. And key stakeholders are councillors, your neighbours, community groups, you and me. We're all stakeholders in how we design our public space, because our public space is shared by all of us. I want to show you some examples of how public space can change over time, just to kind of give you a bit of an idea of what kind of opportunities exist out there. So this is at the Frascati Road in Blackrock a good few years ago now. It's dual carriageway, narrow footpaths, no cycle lanes. This road was upgraded a few years ago. There's still 2 traffic lanes, but there's now a new curb protected cycle track for most of this road, much wider footpaths and more greenery. This is Dundrum Village about 2 years ago, who recently made their street one way in order to provide more space for people walking and shopping in the village as part of COVID. So that transformation looks a lot like this. There's now public seating, and there's planting, there's trees, and there's a contraflow cycle lane. This is Glenview. This is the roundabout kind of by Glenview Lawns in Tala, before South Dublin County Council upgraded it. There aren't clear pedestrian crossing here, and there's no cycle lanes. This is what it's been upgraded to. There are now cycle lanes, and there are much clearer, much better pedestrian crossings. So there's a huge opportunity to do not just cycle improvements with these projects, but a lot of other work as well. Greening, better pedestrian improvements. This is Inskey, just outside the forecourts in the city centre. This used to be 2 lanes of general traffic, a bus lane, and car parking along the river. Dublin City Council have recently reallocated space to provide a larger footpath, a cycle lane, these green planters in the middle, while still maintaining access for cars and the bus lane for buses. South Dublin County Council has been doing a lot of good work on projects over the years. As I'm sure many of you know, like, not all of these projects are easy. The design will change over time, and that's all about the key stakeholders. Everyone, that's everyone being involved in these projects, being engaged and trying to make them work. I'm a really big fan of the design motif that South Dublin County Council use for their bridges. This red style is just really quite iconic. This bridge connected communities together. I think it replaced a 25-minute walk for most people with a 3-minute walk. Huge, huge community improvement because of a walking and cycling project. There are so many opportunities we have with public space. It's a decision we all need to make together. The way that happens is by talking together, working together, and engaging. The coastal mobility route in Dún Laoghaire is not just about a cycle lane. It was about providing new benches and public seating along the route for people to meet up and to have conversations. I want to end with this photo here to some extent to show what can be possible. Dún Laoghaire have called this new cycle route on their coast the coastal mobility route for a reason. And they picked the word mobility because what it means is it's the ability to move freely. We need to get out of congestion. We need to get out of traffic. And it's routes like this that provide mobility, the ability to move freely to a lot more people, particularly children. It provides them with the freedom and independence to move around, to meet their friends, to cycle to school, to go to training on their own. That's all I have for you, Jennifer.